Alright, so the other night I was working on this, and I'm always trying to think of things that I should shoot videos of, and, I had this thing all torn apart, and I got done with it, and I was like, oh, I should have made a video. But anyways, buying a house, the kind with a yard, so I need to, start getting some stuff. So I found this beauty on Craigslist, wouldn't have really been my choice, but the price was right. It's a Craftsman P2 technology, just prime and pull. It's a 4-cycle, so it's got the valves and everything. It's a split shaft type. It came with 3 attachments. It came with the blower, the blade, and then the Weed Wacker head. So the guy was asking $40 for it all. I offered him 30. He said, "What the heck? I just want to get rid of it." So yeah. He said it ran rough. He fired it up for me, and basically it would run, and then when you pull the trigger, it would stall out, or it would struggle to get going. So I brought it home, started playing with it a little, and if you took and put your finger partially over the intake when you pulled the trigger, it would rev all the way up. And then once you moved your finger, it would start to die back down, which means it wasn't getting enough fuel. So usually you just adjust the carburetor. But this carburetor, I believe it's a jetted type carburetor, and they don't have adjustment screws on them. So there's no adjustments to be made. So I took it all apart, checked the spark plug, re-gapped that. I checked the valves. They were out a little bit, but not terrible. So I readjusted them. Took apart the carb. I didn't take apart the carburetor. I took it off, cleaned it. I didn't really see anything out of the ordinary that was causing problems. But there's like a million little passageways and different things down in the carburetor that could be plugged up, whatever. So I put some stabilizer in the fuel, and I started it back up, and it was doing the same thing that it had been doing. And so I just stood outside with it and played with it, kept pulling the trigger, and then all of a sudden it was like someone flipped a switch and it ran perfect. It would rev all the way up, let go of the trigger, it would go right back down to idle, no problem. It was awesome. And so then I decided to check the different attachments to make sure they work, so I switched over to the blade, fired it up, and went right back to doing what it was doing before. I let it run for a while to see if it would clear up, so my guess is that there's something in the carburetor, some sort of deposit or something that's gumming things up and causing issues. So anyways, what I just did, I took some seafoam and I pumped it into the carburetor. So right now the carburetor's full of seafoam, and I'm going to let it sit for a little bit here, a couple minutes, so it can eat away any deposits or anything that's in the carburetor. Unless it's like a piece of dirt or something, it should take care of it. And I'll let it sit for a while and then start it up and see if it does any better. If not, I'm going to tear the carburetor apart and clean it out. If I have to, I'll get a rebuild kit and rebuild it, and the trimmer's not that old. The other thing was the oil was over full, and the oil's really milky looking, and it has a crankcase breather that comes into the intake here, and that seems to spew a lot of oil. And I'm not sure if it was just because it was over full, so there was just excess oil that it was pushing back out, or if there's some, a gasket or something else that's wrong with it besides the carburetor issue. But the filter was just drenched in oil. You could squeeze it and it would just ooze. But if anything, that was actually helping it run better, because having the filter plugged would restrict the airflow, so it would equalize, you know, the air-fuel ratio. But, so yeah, this is my project. I was pretty stoked about it, you know. He said it started running funny, and he didn't even bother messing with it. He said, you know, he went to the steel place, bought a brand new steel 2-cycle, and put this on Craigslist. So, but yeah, the 4-cycles are heavier, quite a bit heavier than the 2-cycles, because they got, you know, the valves and push rods and all that extra stuff. Not to mention, you know, you got the oil. You want to change the oil in it too, since it's pretty milky looking, but it's quite a bit heavier. We use the steel FS90Rs at work, and they're quite a bit lighter than these. The other thing too is the pull start is up here, you know, in front of the motor, whereas the FS90Rs is on the back, so every time I kept going to start it, I'd be reaching back here trying to find it, and, you know, couldn't find it because it wasn't back there. But yeah, seems like a good machine. The 4-cycles, they have a lot more torque, but they don't rev as high as the 2-cycles. It's pretty much the only difference. And I won't have to mix any gas, which will be nice, instead of having, you know, a mixed gas can and a regular gas can. I can just have regular, which will be sweet. So yeah, I'm going to let it sit for a little while, and then we'll take it outside, see if I can fire it up, get it going, see if it runs any better. If not, I'll tear it apart. I'm not afraid. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's been sitting for a few minutes now, so see if I can fire it up. Cold. So there you have it. Everything seems to be working better now. Before it would only rev about half as high, and it would die out when you pulled the trigger from a idle. So must have been something in the carburetor. So those are the kind of fixes I like, you know. Pour a little bit of magic juice in it and let her soak for a few minutes. Good as new, you know. But that kind of worries me. See how milky looking the oil is coming out of the crankcase vent. I don't know how much oil is normal to come out of that, you know, if it's even supposed to come out at all. But it, you know, fills up the filter with oil, and so I at least want to do an oil change on it and put the correct amount of oil in it. The right kind, but it seemed to be working quite a bit better than it did the other night, so I'm happy. And if I have to wring out the filter after every use, then so be it. But I don't know if you can do like some sort of delete for the PCV. But, whoa, stay. I'm not a huge fan of the Incredipull. It's like spring loaded, so you don't have to pull very hard on it to get it to turn the engine over. And the cord doesn't seem to pull very far either. I kept pulling it. I also kept whacking myself in the face and stuff. I'm not used to starting a trimmer on the ground like that. Usually I start it in the air, but, you know. But anyways, so yeah, that's the story of my new Craftsman P2. Just prime and pull. But if you know anything about these engines and the, you know, if that's normal, leave it in the comments section. Or if you don't and you just want to comment about how awesome my Weed Wacker is, do that too. I'm really excited to get this baby out in the woods. I mean, that thing could take out some serious trees. I mean, I've seen where they put like a saw blade on it, but I'm excited to get that out in the woods and chop some stuff. I'm also real excited to do some blowing. I had this on yesterday, and tell you what, it's not for blowing the leaves in your yard. It's more for blowing the grass off your sidewalk when you're done. But what also is cool about this is I'm pretty sure that these all these, you know, the split shaft machines, they're all interchangeable. So if I wanted to get a steel trimmer head, I could probably put a steel trimmer head on my Craftsman Weed Wacker. So, yeah, it's the story of my Craftsman Weed Wacker. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, have a good day.